Let me ask you something. Say someone invaded your home, robbed you, beat you, beat and raped your children and or your spouse and or you, killed your children and or spouse, then got away. Would you honestly feel safe after that? Could you feel safe knowing that the criminal who assaulted you is still out there running free, able to do it again and again? Chances are the answer is no. Even if you move to a new house, the knowledge that your attacker is still at large will continue to haunt you until you knew for sure that they were captured or even killed in some police shootout. Depending on your psychological makeup, you might even be tempted to go out and take the monster out yourself. This reveals the fallacy and the fantasy of the Bush administration and the myth that Bush kept us safe. Since the death of Osama bin Laden, the Bush administration and their apologists have been scrambling to get themselves in front of whatever camera they could on whatever media outlet that will have them, desperate to make sure that their guy gets some credit, if not all of the credit, for killing him. I submit that what they're really looking for is not credit, but absolution. The killing of Osama bin Laden reveals something that the former administration would rather not let you see, for it would shatter the fantasy that they've created around themselves since 9/11. The truth that they are so desperate to hide, but what most Americans figured out long ago, is that Bush did not keep us safe. From bin Laden, from the 9/11 attacks, from terrorism in general, the Bush administration failed us miserably. Bush's failure didn't begin on 9/11. In fact, it didn't even begin with his administration, but during the Clinton administration with a guy named Benny Morris, aka Ahmed Rassam, aka the Millennium Bomber. The Seattle Times has a fascinating 2002 article that timelines Rassam's plan to blow up the Los Angeles airport on the eve of the millennium, hence the nickname. He was captured on a ferry crossing from Canada into Washington and turned over to the FBI. He was ultimately tried in U.S. courts and was interrogated without the use of waterboarding or other torture techniques. The information gleaned from these interrogations would ultimately end up in a brief entitled Bin Laden Determined to Strike in U.S. This brief was handed to President Bush as part of his daily briefing on August 6, 2001. Bush failed to follow through on the information, and the rest, as they say, is history. Almost 3,000 dead, the World Trade Center destroyed, the Pentagon heavily damaged. Bush failed to keep us safe. In November of 2001, military forces had bin Laden and his top lieutenants cornered at the Tora Bora mountain range in eastern Afghanistan. Then head of CIA counterterrorism special ops Frank Crumpton requested of the Bush administration more troops and resources to continue the pursuit of bin Laden. Had he gotten it, U.S. forces would have almost certainly captured or killed bin Laden then and there. The request was ultimately denied. Bin Laden would escape and in 2005 wind up in a mansion compound in downtown Pakistan where he holed up until the recent raid by President Obama resulted in his death. Once again, Bush failed to keep us safe. Enhanced interrogation techniques, erosion of civil liberties, color-coded terror alerts, ignoring the United States Constitution. All of these leftover scabs from the wounds of failure by the Bush administration. To give them credit, the intelligence infrastructure that was put in place after 9/11 did work to help find and kill Osama bin Laden, but only inasmuch as it being in place at the time. To credit Bush with killing bin Laden is like crediting Abner Doubleday for the San Francisco Giants winning the 2010 World Series simply because he invented the game of baseball. Make no mistake, the killing of Osama bin Laden is not a vindication of the so-called Bush system, but an indictment of it. The GOP knows this, which explains why they are trying so hard to make sure you don't. Why else would they be willing to indict themselves by actually admitting that they tortured prisoners just to make the point that it worked? Why can't House Republicans even bring themselves to acknowledge the work of the Navy SEALs who killed Bin Laden? Why would conservative radio show host Laura Ingraham tweet during the president's announcement of Bin Laden's death, "BHO turning this into a campaign speech. He should have thanked GWB, not remind us OB escape," end quote. Of course, they don't want to remind America that Bin Laden escaped under the Bush administration. They don't want you to see the contrast between calm, thoughtful, purposeful action and railing, lashing, knee-jerk reaction. The contrast between seeing a job through to its end and rhetorical flourishes and feel-good symbolism. In short, the contrast between success and failure. The GOP simply can't bring themselves to accept the fact that our guy got Bin Laden and their guy didn't. And they don't want you to accept it either. But no matter how much they try to hide it, excuse it, or rewrite it, judgment has already been made. That judgment will forever be written in the stone tablets of history, and it will forever read that George W. Bush horribly, miserably, and spectacularly failed to keep us safe.